Hello, welcome to Q&A Thursday. Fantastic to have you here. I'm excited. I'm always excited on Thursday so that I can have a chat to you guys. It's great to be here and it's great to see you guys on the line. All right, so we've got an exciting session today. We've got a really interesting question that came to light in one of our face-to-face sessions. So we're really excited to share that with you today. But first off, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. I just want to make sure that everyone can see and hear me. So down the bottom in the right-hand corner, you will see a comments text box. So please, if you can write in there that, yes, you can see and hear me, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I will be able to go from there. Just making sure everything is working. All right. So can everyone see and hear me? It'll be great if you can just let me know, yes, you can see and hear me. And we can start. We've got some really great stuff happening today. While you guys are saying, yes, you can see and hear me. So type that in there. I'm just going to speak to you about what we're going to chat about today. So not only have you got the ability to ask any sort of questions that you might have. Hi, Darren. Hi, Hayley. Can you hear me? Thank you. Fantastic. All right, Niall, fantastic. You can hear me. Leanne, great to see you. Fantastic. All right, we've got Tony. Tony's on the line. Excellent. We've got a great bunch of people on today. Fantastic to see and hear you guys. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today, and it's a question that came up in a face-to-face session that I had really quite recently, and it was all about what was the difference between importance and urgent. So sometimes we get so caught up with the day-to-day. You know, we might come to work one day and the machine's broken down and we've got absenteeism and we've got customer complaints, and then a task has come down the line, and then two people in our team are having a confrontation, and all of a sudden you seem like you're putting out bushfires everywhere, right? So what I want to do is talk to you about how we can sit back and be a little bit more proactive in what we're doing. So what's the difference between urgent and important, and how can we differentiate that difference and be more proactive in our day? So hopefully you'll be able to get something out of this. It was a really interesting session to run when I did it just recently anyway. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So bear with me, everybody, for about 5 seconds while I get this up. And then we will be able to start, and you will see me down here. All right, fantastic. So remember, if you have any questions or any thoughts or any things that you want to share, please feel free just to write them in the comments bar. I've got somebody here with me that will help me and tap me on the shoulder if anybody asks a question, so I won't miss it. So there you go. All right, so let me ask you, does this sound familiar? You get to work, you turn on your computer, and a seemingly endless stream of emails welcomes you. You know, you start replying to them, hoping that you can get this task off your list as soon as possible so you can get on with your day. But the second you feel like you've caught up, you receive an answer to the previous emails that you've already sent earlier, and you're back to square one. So couple this with meetings, with phone calls, with actual work you need to accomplish, and it feels like you're putting out bushfires like we mentioned earlier. So what we need to do to solve this vicious cycle, and it can be an absolute vicious cycle, is to understand the difference between urgent tasks and important tasks. And when you can do this, and when you can differentiate between the two, then you can employ the right strategies to make the most of your time, and then you will be able to, you know, reach those milestones, reach those goals, be able to be proactive in a more proactive space. So what do we mean by urgent and important? So when we talk about urgent, when we say that a task is urgent, it requires immediate attention. So these are the things that shout out to you, you have to do this now. So it puts us in reactive mode, you know. So we feel hurried and we've got a narrow-minded mindset because we don't have time to think about the best way to do it. And these are tasks that require you to immediately react. So they're phone calls, meetings, tasks with really, really tight deadlines, or issues that require your action really, really quickly. So a machine's broken down. What are we going to do? Problem solve, all that sort of stuff. So these are sort of the urgent tasks. And if we put those up against the important tasks are the ones that contribute to your long-term missions. They contribute to your values, to your goals, to what is important to you. Sometimes important tasks can be urgent, but typically they're not. So when we focus on important activities, we're operating more a responsive type mode. So it allows us to be in a more proactive space. It allows us to remain a bit more calmer and rational, and then we can be open to new opportunities if they happen to come along. So these are tasks that help our long-term goals, and usually we tend to put them aside because we usually have quite a bit of time to be able to do those. So we end up putting them aside and dealing with this, fast reactive type stuff that we get on a day-to-day basis, all this urgent stuff. And then before you know it, this important task that we had heaps of time to do has suddenly become urgent because the timeline's now upon us and we've left it to the last minute to get it done. So what we do usually is postpone those important tasks in favour of those ones that we get immediate gratification out of because we can solve it straight away. But they might not be important. They're just urgent because they need to be done now. So can you see the difference there? So, what we want to do is try and get ourselves in a more proactive space versus something that is, reactive. And we can confuse the two. It seems pretty straightforward when I talk about it, but most of us confuse urgent for important. And it's an evolutionary trait. So even back in our ancestor days, they used to prioritize short-term gains for, rather than long-term strategies. So, many, 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 many moons ago, things like finding food and creating warmth and getting shelter and, fighting off the predators and all that sort of stuff was our main aim. And they were short-term sort of reactive type things that we would do, not proactive. They wouldn't, plant seeds for the next season and, all those sorts of long-term things so much. That didn't come until much later. And the digital era that we're living in currently doesn't make things easier for us either. We are connected 24/7. So sometimes we can fail to see the difference between urgent and important because things are bombarding us all the time. So it's really hard for us to focus on the big picture when we're getting bombarded with all this information, especially when everything has a priority of number one on it, so then all the priorities become a burden to us because it's not possible to be able to do all those things. So what I want to talk to you about is a simple tool that Stephen Covey made famous, but it wasn't actually his. It was actually Eisenhower. So he actually created the tool, and Stephen Covey put it in his book, the seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And it was brilliant. It's a brilliant tool that's even used today. And I'm going to go through it with you. And then in the next couple of days, watch out because I'm going to put this tool, but I'm going to leave it blank. So it's a tool that you can use in the next couple of days into the tool suite. So watch out for that one. But this is called the Eisenhower's decision principle. So when Covey put it in his book, he called it a decision matrix to help individuals distinguish between, what was important and what's not important, what's urgent, what's not urgent. And so it divides it into 4 boxes. And quadrant 1 is urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is not urgent but important. Quadrant 3, urgent, not important. And quadrant 4, not urgent, not important. So we'll go through each one of those quadrants so I can show you how to use this tool. So let's move on to, I'm pressing the wrong button. Okay, quadrant 1. So it is urgent and it is important. So can you imagine what is in quadrant 1? There's a few examples. So there's certain emails in quadrant 1. These could be, you get a job offer or there's a new business opportunity that requires your immediate attention. So those sort of emails could be in quadrant 1. A term paper, you might be going to uni and you've got a test paper that's due or a term paper that's due like tomorrow. That's urgent and important. Tax deadline. So you might have to get all your tax information and documentation in the very near future. So that becomes urgent and important. You might have somebody in the emergency room in the hospital. That's urgent and important. Your car engine blows up. That's urgent and important because you can't get anywhere. That's going to really impact your life. You have some sort of illness or, attack and you have to go to the hospital yourself. obviously urgent and important. Or even if you get a phone call from your kid's school saying the principal needs to see you right now, that becomes urgent and important, right? So so these are things that come up in our everyday that are urgent and important. And with a bit of planning, with a bit of organisation, we can take some of those tasks and eliminate them outright. So, for example, instead of waiting for the last minute to work on that term paper for uni, we could have put it in quadrant 2 and spent some proper time on it over a period of time, and then it wouldn't have slipped into this box of urgent and important. Another thing, so instead of waiting for something in your house to fall apart or your car engine to blow up, we could have put it in quadrant 2 and made sure we got those servicings, that we got it to mechanics when we needed to, that we got the regular checkups and all that sort of stuff, so it didn't slip into this quadrant. So now we're not going to completely eliminate anything out of this box at all, but we can significantly reduce them by moving them into quadrant 2, which we're going to speak about in a minute. And that gives us that little bit of proactivity by spending more time in quadrant 2. It gives us the time that we need to do to make sure that these things don't get missed. And then end up really urgent and important. Your own well-being and health, your friends and family well-being and health, your car, your house, your working life, your study, all those sorts of things we can actually try and slip them into a more proactive place so that we have more control over what's happening to them. So what we want to do is although we can't completely eliminate anything out of quadrant 1, we want to try and diminish what's in there as much as we possibly can and put it in quadrant 2. And talk about quadrant 2, let's see what quadrant 2 is all about now. So quadrant 2, this is where it's not urgent, but it's important. So it's not going to put you in panic mode because it's due like yesterday, but it is going to be important for you to finish. I'm hoping you guys can see these slides okay. So some of the things that could be in quadrant 2 are, your weekly planning. So what are you planning for the week? And that could be your groceries for the week. It could be what you're doing at work for the week, that weekly planning, what's going to set you up for success. Long-term planning, so what's going to be your long-term focus goals. You exercising, making sure that you're exercising, in a way that not only you're enjoying it and getting it, but it's giving you more energy and putting you in a really healthy mindset. Family time, making sure you make time for that. That is really, really important. And so often we put it on the back burner. Reading a book, maybe that's something that gives you energy and makes you feel good. Put that in your quadrant 2. Journaling or meditation or taking a class to improve your skill or spending time doing the hobby that you really love to do, studying, all these things are things that's really going to be important. Of course, we've already talked about car and home maintenance, making sure you have date night with your partner or whatever that may be, and creating a budget and savings plan so that you can put yourself in control of your life. So if you can put and increase this quadrant 2 as much as possible so that you've got everything in a proactive space. You know when your servicings are coming up. You know what you're going to eat for the meals for that week. You know what holiday you're saving up for. You know how many times of exercise you've got to do for the week. All those things are going to absolutely set you up for success and put you in a more proactive space so you spend less time in quadrant 1 running around with your hair on fire. Okay, so I hope that helps so far. So the problem is with this quadrant 2 is that there's two things that happens with us. Number one, we put everything off because we have so much time. Oh, the service for the car isn't due for 6 weeks or 6 months, so I'm not going to book it in, and I'm not going to look at my finances and see how I can plan to pay for that, and I'm not going to worry about looking at the tyres as well. We'll just worry about that in 6 months. Then 6 months comes around, you go, wow, I haven't got the money for the servicing. It's going to have to wait now. The car's going to be running on 3 cylinders instead of 4, whatever it may be. So we rather do something that's pressing our attention right now because we have a sense of achievement. Oh, we can fix that because that's happening right now, and I can fix it, and oh, look, I'm good. I've fixed that problem. But ultimately, we're continuously living in quadrant 1 where we should be moving over to quadrant 2. And the other thing is our ever-present bias that keeps us focusing you know, keeps us from focusing on our quadrant 2 activities. So what we need to do is make sure we shift our mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to focus and my area into quadrant 2. I'm going to make time for these things come hell or high water. These are going to be my priorities. And if somebody comes in and says, oh, I need help with this, if I haven't done what's in quadrant 2, I'm going to have to turn around and have that courageous conversation and say, you know what, I can't do that for now. I don't have the capacity. However, come Wednesday, if you still need a hand, I'm here for you. Or if the neighbour comes over and says, can you help me, you know, fix my roof or whatever, you know, if you don't have the capacity to do that, you're going to have to say, no, but I've got somebody, I've got a phone number of a handyman that will be able to help you out. Might cost you 20, 30 bucks, but it's, you know, he's good. So, you know, you're going to have those conversations and stop being Mr. Fix-It. Okay, so let's have a look at quadrant 3. Quadrant 3. So quadrant 3, what's that? So it's not important, but it's urgent. So it's urgent but not important tasks. So these are activities that acquire our attention now, but they don't help us achieve any goals and don't give us fulfillment or don't add to our success. They're interruptions from other people that obviously, you know, involve more helping them out and helping them fulfill their goals and them be successful for their own priorities rather than us. So, you know, phone calls, text messages, most emails, except for the ones that we've already mentioned from quadrant 1. Maybe you get a request from a former employee to write you a letter, you know, to do you a favour. Maybe you get a co-worker that comes by your desk while you're at work and says, oh, you know, can you help me out with this? And you know, and spends 45 minutes of your time. Maybe somebody drops in unannounced and wants to, you know, you need your help with a chore or to fix their car or whatever it may be. Whatever it may be of those things, the people that spend all their time or most of their time in quadrant 3 are doing tasks to help each other, to help others out because they feel important. It makes them feel important. Plus, they're all usually tangible tasks, so you can see a result straight away. So it makes us feel like we're achieving, right? But what happens is they're important to somebody else, but they're not important to us. So it's not important to us to help that person with their task, and it's not important to us for helping with that particular chore of a neighbour and all those sorts of things. But you feel like you're getting a lot done today because you're doing all these things. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't volunteer and help other people, but we should balance it. We need to balance it with our quadrant 2 stuff. It's really, really important to get that balance right. So the people that spend most of the time working on this quadrant, on quadrant 3, where it's urgent, but it's not important tasks, often suffer from the nice guy syndrome or the nice girl syndrome, where they constantly please others, but it's at the expense of their own happiness and at the expense of their own success. So they might be fixing other people's cars while their cars are running on 3 cylinders. They might be fixing other people's homes when their home has got so much maintenance it's not funny. They might be doing somebody else's tasks at work while their own tasks are falling behind. So it's the simple solution here is probably the most difficult, but it's that being that little bit more assertive and saying no, politely to say no to requests that you don't have the capacity to do. And the only way you can say no is you have prioritized quadrant 2 and you can say to them, you know what, I've got a full day on today. I can't help you with that task today. However, I've got about 45 minutes tomorrow that I can give you a hand, and maybe balance it out. But you can't be one of those that are constantly on call for everybody else to be fix-it. Okay, so I know that's a bit harsh, but anyway, let's keep going. All right, so we've got quadrant 4 to go. So let's have a look at quadrant 4. So quadrant 4 is our not important or not urgent. So these are what I call, you know, dicking around, really. It's your watching TV. It's your mindless surfing on your net, watching cats on bloody roller skates. It's playing video games, scrolling through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, gambling, shopping sprees, all those sorts of things. So, and I'm not saying that we need to eliminate these completely. I don't think so, because sometimes, you know, all you need to do is come home, watch half an hour TV show just to relax, to de-stress, to be able to renew, or do all these sorts of things. But I think if we took an audit on ourselves, we would find we spend so much time doing this stuff that honestly, it's taking us out of the quadrant 2, which we need to spend the majority of our time in. So as I say, I'm a bit of an activist / pragmatist. I don't think that we can eliminate quadrant 4 activities completely, because after a hectic and busy day, sometimes you need that. Maybe surfing the net is the thing that makes you feel calm, that makes you de-stress. But spending a small amount of time, or a smaller amount of time on them, is going to make a world of difference to being able to give you the capacity to focus on quadrant 2. So if you can say, 5% or less of your waking hours on quadrant 4, 5% or less. So if you're awake for 18 hours a day, get 5% of that away. So try and work that out. So 1.8 hours, so half of that, just a bit less than an hour. So if you've got a show on Netflix that you like to watch, just watch 1 episode, don't watch 4. You get to watch the other ones. They're not going anywhere. So just have a think about how you can do that and how you can get that balance right. All right, so I have a challenge to you for this week. As soon as that tool comes in, and I'll send you an email to when that tool comes in. So I'm going to get the decision quadrant, the decision maker, which is going to be this thing. And I'm going to ask you to spend some more time on important tasks. So how are you going to do this? All right, so I promise if you spend more time on the not urgent but important quadrant, which is quadrant 2, you will feel a renewed sense of calm. You will be in control. You will have composure with your life. You'll feel like you're making a real difference. And I know that it sounds like you're never going to be able to get there, but you will. It's just a matter of being that little bit more assertive and being able to say no to the things that you're currently doing on a regular basis. So moving into quadrant 2 is a bit like planning and organising activities, and you can prevent you to get into crisis mode. You will actually make time in your diary. So you will block out time in your diary to work on those long-term goals. You will block out time to be able to work on that paper that you've got for uni that's due in 3 months. You're going to block out time to do exercise. You're going to ensure that you go on a date night or you spend time with the family, whether it be a games night, or get everybody to switch their mobile phones and digital devices off and go for a walk or a picnic in the park once a week, or whatever it may be. You're going to actually be proactive with your time with this. You're going to take everyone to the movies or whatever it may be, and really spend time doing that, because it's going to make a real difference to your life. And when it goes into your life, it actually goes over to your work life as well. So if you can do this, if you find it hard to do at work, do it at home first and then let it drift over. Or if you find it hard doing it at home, do it at work first and let it drift over, because it will drift over eventually. It'll become your norm. So making quadrant 2 your top priority, no matter the emergency, the annoyance, or the deadline that you're hit with, you will have the mental, the emotional, and physical ability to be a positive and proactive versus a reactive and defensive type person. So, hey, let's give it a go. I'm going to certainly give it a go. I do fairly proactive stuff. You might see in the background here, I don't know if you can see, I've got my standard work here. That's what I do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly. And in that daily, I do all my daily tasks, and it has in there how much exercise I should have, how much hydration, nutrition, and exercise, nutrition, hydration, and rest, so sleep. So, I'm trying to track all these things and be proactive with it so I can get myself in a really positive and proactive mindset. So really be interested to see how you guys go. Do you do this currently? Is it something that you do? And if not, what can we do to be different? So what do you think? Is this resonating with people, or is it like, oh, my Lord, I can't do that. That's ridiculous. What do you think? As I say, it's hard to do at first, and don't set yourself up for failure by totally turning your life upside down. Try and do small things at first. So plan your schedules for your car maintenance, plan your schedules for your house maintenance, maybe plan your groceries and your meals or shopping or whatever. If you're going to do it in your personal life first off, and then if you're going to do it in your work life, then have a look at those long-term goals. Really set some time in your calendar to be able to get those completed in a timely manner. Don't get to the end where you've got 2 days before the deadline and go, holy hell, I haven't even started this. So trying to get yourself into a more positive mindset. So anyone got any questions, thoughts, stories that they would like to share with me with this? All good, Tony. Fantastic. Niall, you got anything? Darren? Oh, I've just scrolled down. What happens when you work with others that live in quadrant 1? Yes, I think, do you know what? People live in quadrant 1 because they get that sense of accomplishment. So they feel like they're making a difference. They're the ones running around with a clipboard feeling like they're really busy all the time. And it's usually makes them feel like, you know, they're up there. So I think, Niall, if you had the opportunity to sit them down and take them through this one pager that I'm going to put in your toolkit, even get them to watch this video if it helps. There'll be the replay on the unlocking portal for you. But I think it's important that if you're going to do it, that you can talk to the others about, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it and the reasons I'm going to do it. If you want to join me, great. But if you don't, just understand that if you come to my office with a request and I say no to you, it's because I'm trying to be more proactive and be in this quadrant too. So if you're quite open with what you're doing and the changes you're making, you might find that people will want to join you. So that would be good if people can do it. You'll sometimes find people won't. They'll scoff at it because they're scared. It's a fear thing. They can't get over the adrenaline they get when they problem solve at that last minute and do all those last minute things. Unfortunately, their long-term goals are suffering because of it. So absolutely share what you're doing, share the tool, have a chat to them about the difference it's making for you. But if they're not willing to change, you still need to be focusing and be proactive in your quadrant too. So if they're coming to you because last minute stuff's done and they've left it to the last second and they need help, if you don't have the capacity to do it, you're just going to have to be tough and say, I'm sorry, these are my priorities today and I'm actually chockers. So maybe somebody else can help you. So hopefully that helps. Niall, give us a yell if you need any more help with that. Great question. Any other ones? Any other question? No worries. No worries. Darren, you good? Hayley? Leanne? Tony's all good? Okay. I think we're all good. Fantastic. All right, so we've got a few questions that came into the unlocking portal that are on these little sticky yellow things. My team have put them on these sticky pads so that I don't forget them. So we answered that one today. What should we be doing to actively change culture, attitudes and engagement in our teams? That's a good one. And why is it that people's words say that they want teamwork but their actions say something else? Interesting one. So we'll tackle those over the next couple of weeks. And if anything more comes through, please just if you've got any questions or queries or want to share some stories, ask at teamleadertoolkit.com. Get online, write to us. We respond within 24 hours. In fact, it's usually within 2, but we say 24. And then if it's a great question that we want to put on the webinar, we will ask your permission if we can share it. And if we can, then you guys get to share that question as well. The other thing is get onto the Facebook site. So get onto our closed Facebook site, the Unlocking Portal Facebook site, and you will find that this is only for people that are doing this Unlocking Portal and Team Leader Toolkit program. So if you've got any questions, they're the people in the know that will be able to help you out. All right. So without further ado, I think that's it for today. Been fantastic speaking to you all. Have a fantastic Friday that's coming up as well as the weekend, and I look forward to catching up with you next week. Look out for that the tool that's coming through. So the 4 quadrants, the Stephen Covey tool. So, and I challenge you to see if you can do it. Put all your little bits and pieces in those quadrants. Whatever you do for the week, put them in those quadrants, and then try and reduce quadrants 1, 3, and 4 and increase quadrant 2. See how you go. Bye for now. Thanks, guys.